And news now begins in the west of the continent, Nigeria, where the government has suspended its decision on a new minimum wage for workers, agreeing to meet with stakeholders before it comes up with a tentative wage review. The Federal Executive Council, during its weekly meeting, says that President Bola Tinubu will be holding further consultations on the issue before finalizing his decision on the matter. News Center's Imano Bogudu reports.
Nigeria's president presides over the Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. 39 memos were presented to the president during the meeting, among which includes the new national minimum wage. The president approved some of the memos, but stepped down the memo relating to the minimum wage.
The new national minimum wage is not just that of the federal government. It is an issue that involves the federal government, the state governments, local governments, and the organized private sector, and of course, including the organized labor. That memo was stepped down to enable Mr. President to consult further before an executive bill is presented to the National Assembly.
The Finance, Health and Environment Ministers gave accounts of the approvals received for their ministries.
I took one council memo for approval by the council, and that was to do with strengthening the customs service. As you know, I have the honor of chairing the Board of Customs, and so it fell to me to take before the Federal Executive Council the requirements by way of equipment, by way of security gadgets, and so on and so forth, and I did that.
The people should be aware of this outbreak of cholera so that we can control it quickly. The Council then approved a cabinet committee comprising the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, Ministry of Budget and National Planning, Water Resources, Environment, Youth Aviation Ministry, Education, because some of our children will be going back to school, to ensure that we put safeguards, in addition to the state governments. And we've been asked to co-opt one of the state governors who has an important experience that can be contributed to this effort in terms of sanitation, open defecation, so that Nigeria makes progress in reducing open defecation. Because cholera is a developmental issue. It's not just a health issue, it's a multi-sectoral issue. All of us as Nigerians have to lean in to make that happen. So Council took a position, and the President directed that this Cabinet Committee be put in to oversee what this Emergency Operations Center led by the NCDC is doing, and for the resources to be provided so that we are complemented by the state governments as well.
Council approved that a ban is placed on the use of on-the-go plastics, what we know as single-use plastics, in all ministries, agencies, and departments of the federal government. This is in line with the 2022 National Policy on Plastic Waste Management. And I must say that the discussion in ESCO was very smooth, because all members of ESCO, including Mr. President, was very enthusiastic about this ban.
The recent decision by the FEC will surely elicit reactions from the nation's organized labor. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
In the meantime, organized labor has expressed its satisfaction with the Federal Executive Council's decision to step down the memorandum regarding the tripartite committee's report on the new national minimum wage. The Nigeria Labour Congress criticized the FAC's move, highlighting the potential for harmful speculation. Head of Public Relations for the NLC, Benson Opa, voiced concerns over the FAC's failure to consider the memorandum during its meeting. He said delaying the tripartite committee's report leaves room for injurious speculations. Following the council meeting, Minister of Information Mohammed Idris said the FAC had decided to step down the memorandum to allow for further consultations. Now, these discussions, according to him, will involve President Bola Tinubu, state governors, local government authorities, and the private sector. Let's give you some update on the situation in Rivers State, where we understand that the factional National Youth Council of Nigeria, and that is NYCN, has taken to the streets of Port Harcourt in a solidarity march, urging the police to maintain their presence at local government secretariats across Rivers State. Led by factional chairman Wasabari Bani, the NYCN marched to the police command headquarters on Moscow Road. Bani addressed the crowd, stating that the police barricades at the secretariat have successfully prevented vandalism by hoodlums. He emphasized the need for the police to stay in place until the appeal court resolves the ongoing political issues in the state. Bani called on the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, to provide the necessary support to ensure peace and security at the council secretariats. Responding to the match, Rivers State Commissioner of Police, Olatunji Disu, reaffirmed the importance of maintaining law and order in the state, citing its critical role in Nigeria's economy.
Here to state family, to the Nigerian police force, to this command, led by our able Commissioner of Police, Tunji Disu, for what you have done for Rivers youth. Let me say this to the world, because many people will not know what is happening in Rivers State. What you have combated is more than terrorism in some states.
My duty as a policeman is to protect lives and properties. And I give you my words that we are going to continue to protect lives and properties. We are not politicians. We will do our best not to join their politics. I thank you so much for all you have done, for the support you have given us. I assure you that we'll continue to do our jobs of maintaining law and order. Thank you. Rivers State is a very, very important state to the economy of a great nation, Nigeria, and there must not be breakdown.
And now to discuss the situation in Rivers State, I am joined by the Chairman, National Youth Council of Nigeria, Rivers State Chapter, and Public Relations Officer, Chairman's Forum Nigeria, and that is Wasabari Bani Samuel. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Just to get started very quickly, can you explain the rationale behind the National Youth Council of Nigeria, NYSC, Rivers State Chapter's decision to support the police occupation of local government secretariats? And how do you think it will impact the security situation in the state?
I want to say a very big thank you for having me here. My name is Mehen from the Atibi, Chairman National Youth Council of Nigeria. And to be very explicit, the issue on the debate right now is not new to anybody in Nigeria. So I'm aware that there is conflicting court judgment, court orders in Rivers State emanating from different courts of jurisdiction, both federal and state. And you also
Wasabari was struggling to hear you with your connection there. If there's any way that... Wasabari, your network is horrible there. We're struggling to hear you.
Okay. So, but you can hear me now?
Much better.
Okay, what I'm saying is that it's no longer new that there are conflicting court judgments emanating from different courts, both federal and state, and at the point, it's difficult for the police and the people to actually understand which one is actually to be taken or to be upheld. So, some people are saying, some other courts are saying, state status quo, and status quo is what we, Nigerian youth in Rivers State, actually are looking at the situation in Rivers State. We don't want bloodshed, we don't want crime. And the Nigerian police force is even concerned about these court cases. Which one are they going to, adhere to? Which one are they going to ignore? And if they do so, it might look like they're taking parties or taking a side with party A or party B. And they decided to say, let us maintain order till a court of competent jurisdiction will give strength to that. Some person says that local government says are expired. And we are going to come on air presenting the duration of the state of local government chairman, saying that the head of personnel, state of local government, should take over the administration pending when other decisions emanating from other jurisdictions will be taken or shown to the people. But in another development, the governor, Governor Fubara, came up again in less than 24 hours, announced the caretaker. And this is what we're expecting from him, looking at the situation in Rivers State, throwing the state into chaos. Now, people were mobilized. People loyal to Governor Fubara were mobilized with arms and other weapons to go and siege our local government. They were not caretaker members. They were not elected caretaker council deputies. So there is nothing that is warranted over. We are not at war in Rivers.
Wisabari.
Takeover is a force territory, and it's not at this point. So,
right. Now, I want to ask you a question, and I think it's very pertinent to raise this at this point. How do you respond to critics who might view the police presence in the Secretariat as an attempt to usurp the powers of democratically elected local government officials, right? And what guarantees can you offer that the police will not overstep their bounds?
I think it's crystal clear. So far, we have not gotten any incident where the police have mishandled any person or breach of public peace or breach of human rights. These are the things we should be more concerned about. The police, okay, just look at, there are some local government where we have had some casualties. There are some people who lost their lives in the process of taking over the local government. And if the Nigerian police force do not step in to arrest this situation, just imagine a strategy you are going to report. And this is very worrying because we are not in a political dispensation. We are not with politics and this is political. We expect everybody to follow rule of law. Strict adherence to rule of law will not get us at this point where we find ourselves today. And we also expect that the governor should follow suit. Even Mr. President of this country is not above the laws of the land.
All right.
The president also adheres to it. So we expect everybody to just hold on. It's just a little while the court are going to give us a clear direction on what to do.
All right. As we wait for the Court of Appeal for its judgment or ruling, we wait to see what, as the crisis continues to unfold in Rivers. Wasibari, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us. We'll take a short break and we come back on the other side. We continue. Stay with us. And now we'll continue with the news, and this time still in South Nigeria, Rivers State, the prime suspect in the failed detonation of alleged explosive device outside the perimeter fence of Hotel Presidential along Port Harcourt-Aba Expressway during a protest on Tuesday in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, has been nabbed. The prime suspect is now receiving medical attention at the intensive care unit of the State University Teaching Hospital. The suspect is alleged to be part of a group of protesters loyal to FCT Minister Nyesom Wike and supporters of former elected local government chairman whose tenure elapsed at midnight on June 17, 2024, and have been agitating for tenure elongation, a demand alien to the Constitution.
Earlier today, being Tuesday, the 25th of June 2024, we made a call from the Rivers State government alerting all medical facilities, both public and privately owned facilities in the state, about a failed attempt to detonate an explosive at the Hotel Presidential axis of the state. The reason for that was for them to be vigilant with a heightened sense of alert and high index of suspicion should any individual present at any of the medical facilities with an injury suggestive of a traumatic amputation of an upper limb. And so following from that call,
Youth participation in governance has been described as the essential remedy for the many issues plaguing public offices, paving the way for a brighter future. Members of the Cyber Africa, a non-governmental organization, firmly believe that young people hold the key to transformative nation building through impactful policy making. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe brings us more.
Cyber Africa, a non-governmental organization, has again condemned the misconduct of public officials, attributing these issues to the exclusion of youth from policy-making processes. The organization believes that instead of resorting to social vices and the get-rich-quick mentality, young people should rather engage in activities that highlight their talent and demonstrate their commitment to strengthening democracy in Nigeria.
So what you find out today is you find out that you have a lot of young people that are social media savvy but do not understand the conversation that is currently going on in terms of governance. And so that's the reason why we launched this particular series today to continue the conversations about how policy decisions of government shapes young people and how young people can participate actively.
Their relentless fight for inclusion in the face of exclusivity is the drive that will make their voices heard, especially in policy making for the betterment of society.
Young people in this country have the capacity, they have the ability, they are raising up their hand, they want to be part of the decisions that will affect their future, but they are being excluded. But it is no longer time that we continue to exclude young people. The time has come for us to incorporate the ideas of young people and to begin to solve a lot of problems and issues that we have in these countries.
If truly youths are the leaders of tomorrow and the time spent under this roof is anything to go by, then their take-home is of great importance.
At least I can see people's diverse opinion about what politics is, policy making, implementation.
And I see that this program, which has to do with governance and also policy dialogue, in which we see the need why our policies should be reviewed so that the youth should also be favored more and also be involved in politics.
Despite the seemingly low number of these young voices, raising public awareness is crucial. Only through broader sensitization can their perspectives be amplified and recognized, leading to more meaningful democratic benefits. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
The final forfeiture of the sum of $1,426,175.14 linked to the former governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. Justice Ayokunle Faji ruled that the funds be permanently forfeited to the federal government. Now, this final ruling follows an application by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The EFCC had initially secured an interim order for the temporary forfeiture of the money on May 29th of 2014. The court mandated the publication of this order in newspapers to allow any interested parties to come forward and contest the forfeiture. At the hearing, EFCC counsel Bilikisu Buhari Balla confirmed that the publication order had been fulfilled and that no claims to the funds had been made. As a result, the court proceeded with the failure or the final forfeiture. Away from that now, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Price Regulatory Authority has denied allegations of importing substandard fuel into the country. Now, this is coming days after the Dangote Petroleum Refinery accused the Oil Authority of issuing licenses to marketers to import the fuel into Nigeria. News Center's Emmanuel Bugudu reports.
Oil marketers and refiners in Nigeria meet officials of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Price Regulatory Authority in the nation's capital, Abuja. The meeting, expected to deliberate on how to ensure supply stability within a fair pricing regime for citizens, also addresses allegations by the Dangote Petroleum Refinery of opening the market for the importation of substandard and sulfur-rich fuel into the country.
I'm happy to tell Nigerians that Up until, as we speak in June, the average sulfur content in every AGO that is brought into Nigeria is far below, the average is far below what the 50 ppm provision is in the law. With the local refiners, remember that that declaration deferred it, and so they continue to produce at a higher level. But we are not very anxious about that, because even the new refineries that are coming in have within their design of the plant desulfurization units that will see in the nearest future that sulfur going down as low as 10 ppm. And so I would like to assure Nigerians that this is a mandate that the authority takes very seriously, and that we are here to guarantee the well-being and health of Nigerians. And there is no dirty fuel that we will encourage to come into Nigeria.
The executive director of the agency says that Nigeria will strictly adhere to the ECOWAS Head of State Declaration adopting the African Fuel Roadmap for 2020.
The ECOWAS Heads of State in 2020 endorsed a declaration adopting the Afri5 Fuel Roadmap that requires that certain products have as a minimum 50 parts per million liters of sulfur. Whilst it encouraged almost an immediate enforcement against imports to comply with that standard, the same treaty deferred enforcement for local refineries up to 31st December 2024. Now, the PIA, when it was passed in 2021 in Section 317, also captured and upheld these ECOWAS treaty.
The executive director says that the agency will enforce compliance to the importation of fuel that meet standards. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bagudu.
The Lagos State government has adopted the One Health strategy to combat the recent cholera outbreak. At a press briefing on Tuesday, Commissioner for Health, and that's Professor Akin Abayomi, detailed the collaborative approach, which involves various government entities working together. These include the Ministries of Health, Environment, Agriculture, Fiscal Planning, and Education, among others, all aiming to prevent and control the disease's spread in Lagos communities. The commissioner said the collaboration marks a significant step in the fight against cholera, reinforcing a government's commitment to safeguarding the health and well-being of its residents. He also assured the public that the outbreak is under control thanks to an incident command structure led by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and an effective emergency operations center. The center includes multiple pillars representing different ministries, agencies, and relevant stakeholders. And now to look more into the surge in cholera outbreak cases in Nigeria and the measures taken by the Lagos State government. I'm joined by a medical expert and CEO, Dr. Nesechi LLC, and that's Dr. Nesechi Okeke Igbokwe. She joins me live via video chat. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us. We're pressed for time, so let's just get started very quickly. Let me start by asking, what are the typical symptoms and signs of cholera, and how does it even spread within communities?
So we have to first understand what cholera is. Cholera is an infectious disease that is caused by bacteria called Vibrio cholera. Symptoms that everyone should be aware of is very watery, profuse diarrhea, what we call rice water looking stools, extreme issues with vomiting, issues with nausea. These are all severe gastrointestinal symptoms, and the loss of fluids that one can have through the issues with the vomiting and especially the diarrhea can cause severe dehydration. The concern is when one has this severe dehydration, that can translate into complications such as kidney failure, shock, coma, and the worst case scenario, death.
Right. Now, what individuals do you think is at risk, when in reducing the risk of infection, I beg your pardon, what can individuals do?
Yeah. So individuals who are exposed to contaminated water, poor sanitation, have inadequate hygiene, those are the individuals that are at greater risk. And you have to understand how this disease actually even spreads. The cholera bacteria is passed through feces. So it's spread by eating or drinking contaminated water or contaminated food that has the feces of an infected person in that sample. So with that said, things that need to be done at this time is really prevention in the form of focusing on hand hygiene. We need to ensure that everyone is washing their hands with soap and water before eating food, before preparing food, especially after using the bathroom. You also have to try to avoid water that has not been properly treated. Those basic preventive measures can help to stop the spread of cholera. Other things that are necessary as well are vaccinations. Unfortunately, there is a lack of vaccinations and vaccines for cholera available here in Nigeria. So until we have that access to the vaccinations in tandem with just the hand hygiene and improving sanitation measures, there's really not much more but the hygiene piece that can be done to minimize the risk of exposure.
I'm so glad you're talking about, strategies and just how to prevent it, preventative care, which takes me to my next question, right? The minister, the commissioner for health for Lagos State have talked about the One Health strategy that is being adopted to sort of curb and, prevent more cases. But how effective do you think this strategy is, which is the One Health strategy? And how effective will it be in combating cholera outbreaks compared to other public health approaches that we've seen?
So ultimately the goal is to support the coordination of the response to cholera across the country, especially in the hotspots around the country. But overall, the main thing that needs to be done is strengthening the healthcare infrastructure of Nigeria. There's a lot of inequity when it comes to healthcare in this country. Every Nigerian should be able to have access to healthcare. And I think that's the underlying issue, because there are treatment modalities available for one who is grappling and dealing with cholera, but do they have the access to get the necessary treatment? I think from a government point of view, if we do not strengthen and fortify the access issue that a lot of Nigerians have, then that's when we're going to continue to see more and more problems with the treatment of cholera, the access to the oral hydration solution that is the mainstay treatment with one that is infected, with IV fluids. How does the average Nigerian who potentially can be infected with cholera gain access to treatment so that they can actually survive when exposed?
Well, Nosochi, let's now talk about, basically, I'm glad you're bringing this up because the torrential rains are back, right? And just yesterday, one of the major parts of Lagos State was flooded. And somehow, I can link the two, cholera and contaminated water and flooding, right? Because it pushes out the feces from all the drains and the gutters and back up, and it can now filter into our drinking water or even the water systems, right? So if I'm in Lagos and I'm watching, or any part of the country watching, what advice do you have, for us or for the public in general, my viewers watching, to protect themselves from cholera and contribute to preventing its spread?
Essentially, you have to be aware of the water sources that you are exposed to, and that's the key at this time. Contaminated water sources really will translate into problems with potential exposure to cholera. So make sure the water that you're using to prepare food or the water that you're drinking is treated, is bottled, is a clean source of water so that it does not impact one negatively.
Dr. Nesochi Okeke Igbokwe, that's my guest. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you for doing this with us. And now moving on to health now. Still on health matters, the battle against illicit drug use and trafficking in Nigeria has taken a huge turn in the last 3 years, with several arrests being made and several syndicates exposed. However, there's still much more to be done. As the NDLEA joins other anti-drug agencies around the world to mark World Drug Day, the agency says working on drug demand reduction is another way to go in the battle against the use and sale of illicit drugs in Nigeria. News Central's Bernard Akede has more. Take a look.
The global drug problem presents a multifaceted challenge that touches the lives of millions worldwide. From individuals struggling with substance use disorders to communities grappling with the consequences of drug trafficking and organized crime, the impact of drugs is far-reaching and complex. A 2018 drug use survey carried out on persons between the ages of 15 and 65 showed that in the previous year, 14.3 million people abused illicit substances. This figure translates to 14.4% prevalence in Nigeria. Also in Nigeria, like other countries, several factors can be listed as the reasons for the high use of illicit drugs.
The predisposing factor responsible for foiling people going into substance abuse, if we have to discuss that, that's quite a number of such factors, ranging from socioeconomic factors to parenting, that's poor parenting, that's at the family level, to environmental issues, peer pressure, as well as social media, which is another factor.
However, in the last 3 years, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, says the battle against trafficking and use of illicit drugs has been a tough one, but much success has been recorded.
Let me just bring our strategies on, from two pillars. First, the drug supply reduction, and that's the law enforcement angle of our job. That's the area where we make arrests, we make seizures, we prosecute, and also go after the assets of the traffickers and the barons. All that I can tell you in the last 3 years, there has been quite a lot of effort in that regard. We made more than 50,000 arrests, and I can tell you also that indeed within the same period, more than 9,000 offenders have been successfully prosecuted.
The theme for this year's World Drug Day is "The evidence is clear, invest in prevention." To this end, the NDLEA believes the battle against illicit drug trafficking and use goes beyond just the apprehension and prosecution of suspects. It also has to do with working on drug demand reduction.
One of the steps that the agency has taken is to put in place a social advocacy initiative, which we call War Against Drug Abuse Social Advocacy Campaign, wider social advocacy campaign, which was indeed launched on June 26, 2021, to mobilize the citizenry to buy in and take ownership of the fight against substance abuse. That's raising the awareness.
As Nigeria joins the rest of the world in the fight against illicit drug use and trafficking, we are reminded that it will take a collective effort of government agencies and private individuals. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
Still on health, Nigeria's federal government has commenced plans aimed at refurbishing and equipping teaching hospitals across Nigeria. The Minister of Health and Social Welfare made this known in Abuja after the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting, where he informed newsmen that the council had approved the appointment of a transaction advisor to develop a model that will help perform the process.
There were 4 main categories of things that the council discussed regarding health and social welfare. You all are aware that the president is focused on the well-being of the Nigerian people, and health is a key part of that, alongside other sectors that have bearing with the welfare of the Nigerian citizens. The first issue was that of infrastructure in our healthcare system. Council considered and approved the engagement of a transaction advisor to develop a public-private partnership that will expand, modernize, refurbish 6 teaching hospitals, their equipment on the PPP arrangement for 20 years. The transaction advisor will prepare a full business case which will lead to a contracting. The hospitals are University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital in Enugu, in the southeast, University of Uyo Teaching Hospital in the south-south, University College Hospital Ibadan in the southwest. In the north-central zone is the National Hospital Abuja. The northeast has the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, and in the northwest, Usman Danfodio University Teaching Hospital. That's a massive upgrade of the health infrastructure that is underway.
And now on to Niger. Niger Republic's Defense Ministry has declared 3 days of national mourning starting today in response to a violent attack that claimed the lives of 20 troops and 1 civilian. The attack occurred on Tuesday near the village of Tasaya. According to the ministry statement, a coalition of terrorist armed groups targeted security forces, resulting in 21 martyrs, including 1 civilian, and injuring 9 others. In retaliation, several dozen assailants were killed, and both aerial and ground reinforcements are being deployed to pursue the remaining attackers. Tasaya is located in the Tila Bari region, which borders Mali and Burkina Faso. The area has been plagued by a bloody insurgency led by rebels linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group for nearly a decade. And on to Kenya, where the Kenya Medical Association says the death toll from violent protests has risen to 13. The unrest began as anti-tax hike rallies, but turned deadly when police opened fire on demonstrators who stormed the parliament building. The protest, led mostly by young people, started peacefully last week but escalated on Tuesday as police used live ammunition on crowds. The violence left parts of the parliament burning ablaze and scores of people injured. In response, the government has deployed the military to support the police in addressing the security emergency. The Kenya Medical Association has condemned the excessive force used against unarmed protesters, calling it unprecedented. And in related development, the head of the Africa Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, expressed deep concern on Tuesday over the deadly unrest sparked by anti-tax protests in Kenya. In a statement, Mahamat urged for calm and called on all parties to refrain from further violence. The protests escalated into violence, with police firing live rounds at demonstrators, leading to fatalities and extensive damage, including the storming and ransacking of Kenya's parliament. Mahamat appealed to Kenya's national stakeholders to engage in constructive dialogue to address the underlying issues that sparked the protests, emphasizing the importance of prioritizing Kenya's stability and well-being. The African Union reaffirmed its solidarity with the government and people of Kenya, urging them to uphold peace and security across the country. And on to the Democratic Republic of Congo, DR Congo, where the military court announced that it would continue the trial of 51 individuals accused of participating in an alleged coup attempt. This decision comes despite the defendants' lawyers urging the court to drop the case, arguing that it lacks jurisdiction as the defendants are civilians. The court, however, ruled that the civilians are being persecuted not merely for criminal collaboration with soldiers, but as authors, co-authors, or accomplices in actions that fall under the military's court's jurisdiction. The alleged coup attempt took place on May 19th in the capital city, Kinshasa. The alleged coup plot was reportedly led by Christian Malanga, a Congolese national and naturalized American who was killed by security forces during the incident.
Dans leur globalité, alors que leurs clients ont été victimes des actes de torture par l'officier de police judiciaire verbalisant au fin de leur soutirer des aveux tels que repris dans les déclarations contenues dans leurs différents procès-verbaux. Cependant, il rappelle aux parties que les procès-verbaux ne lient aucunement les juges et valent comme simple renseignement ce qui est commun de l'application de la preuve en matière pénale. Ainsi, le tribunal fait relever que quand le fond sera abordé, il appartiendra aux prévenus qui auraient été victimes de ces actes de les signaler et d'en apporter la preuve surtout que la torture ne se présume pas.
And on to the East African country where Ethiopian, or rather environmental activists together with other civil groups are gathered outside the Chinese embassy demanding that China withdraw its support for the East African crude oil pipeline project. The day is a global day of action in solidarity with communities in Tanzania and Uganda who have been dispossessed by their land, and have had their livelihoods. According to activists, the fight against ECOP is in a critical moment following 29 major commercial banks and 28 insurers already having ruled out support for the project. The project proponents are now looking to China and its numerous state-owned banks and insurance firms to fill the funding gap. Well, you're still watching News Now on News Central TV. Still coming up, U.S. judge frees WikiLeaks founder Assange. We'll bring you details after the break. Join us again. And news now continues as a United States federal judge has accepted a plea deal for Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks. Assange pleaded guilty to a single count of conspiracy to obtain and disseminate national defense information. Now, according to the agreement, Assange will not face further jail time, and the judge has indicated that he will be a free man, bringing an end to a years-long legal battle. Assange had been wanted by the U.S. government for his role in revealing military secrets through WikiLeaks. The plea deal marks a significant development in the case, which has garnered international attention and sparked debates about freedom of the press and government secrecy.
Julian Assange is unprecedented. In the 100 years of the Espionage Act, it has never been used by the United States to pursue a publisher, a journalist like Mr. Assange. Mr. Assange revealed truthful, important, and newsworthy information, including revealing that the United States had committed war crimes, and he has suffered tremendously in his fight.
Now in football, newly crowned Nigeria Premier League Football League champions, and as Rangers International have finalized plans to adopt Enugu-based female team Greenfoot Ladies ahead of their CAF Champions League campaign for next season. Now, this move is in compliance with CAF regulations, which require participating clubs to either have a female team or adopt an existing one to be eligible for the CAF Champions League next season. The management of Rangers has confirmed the adoption of Greenfoot Leaders as their official female team. The reigning champions will offer comprehensive support to Greenfoot Ladies, aiming to foster the growth and development of female football within the community. Greenfoot Ladies participated in this year's Women's President Federation Cup. And on to Ghana, where the Vision FC has announced the appointment of Nana Kukuo-Yambanga as their new head coach in preparation for their debut in the Ghana Premier League. He has signed a 2-year contract with the club, taking over from Hamza Obang, who successfully led the team to a historic promotion to the top flight. The decision to appoint him comes as Obang, a former assistant coach for Hearts of Oak and Madama, does not possess the necessary qualifications to lead Vision FC in the Ghana Premier League. Obang will continue to support the team as his assistant coach. Currently serving as the assistant coach for the Ghana Under-17 national team, the new coach is also the CEO of Pro Gen Football Club, and his previous roles include technical director at Lizzie Sports Academy, head coach at Barra Rosas Academy, and Adanta United FC. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Organized labor kicks as Federal Executive Council steps down memo on minimum wage demands consultation. 21 persons killed in violent attack by armed group in Niger Republic. And we also told you that death toll from Kenya's violent demonstrations has risen to 13. Now remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Abo TV and YouTube. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Judith, Atibi.